Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to HOTFIX. Today we're going to be talking about pirating games. Now this is a massive grey area and it's quite a disgusting topic, especially around the PC gaming crowd and even other gaming crowds, all the consoles and stuff. But what we're going to talk about is kind of like the ethical implications of pirating games. Why in some situations it may be considered okay to pirate games, and kind of personal experiences. So we're going to start off with an admission. I have pirated games, and so has, I believe, Mr. Kirioth is here. Tell me he's here.
I'm here, and
hello.
I have pirated games.
Yes, he's a filthy pirate. So are you people listening as well. You have pirated games. I will not stand for it if somebody says to me, no, I've never pirated a game in my life. Everybody has done it. Okay, there may be the odd wild exception of somebody who has never pirated anything, but I find that kind of hard to believe. So why did I pirate games, and when did I do it? Well, it's not been for a long time. I would imagine around about 6, 7, 8 years ago. Last time, I can't even remember the last thing I actually pirated, so I don't even know. But it was a long time ago. But what I do know is the reason why I did this. Now, at the time, I would have been living with my parents. They were not exactly too hot on the idea of me wasting all my money on computer games. So I was left in a situation where I couldn't really spend the money I had, and I didn't have that much anyway, so I couldn't really buy everything. The only way to get games was to download the games. Now, in that situation, was I ethically wrong to be doing that? You know, is that ethically wrong to be doing that? Who am I actually harming? What am I doing? Well, I was not very old, and you could say I was a bit innocent, a bit stupid. I didn't really know what the hell was going on, but the fact remains I still pirated games, and that is the reason why I did it. And Mr. Kirioth is essentially the same situation. So what we're going to do is go on to the first point, Mr. Kirioth.
Well, the first thing that I think needs to be addressed is it ethically wrong to pirate games when there is no demo? You know, if there's no way of testing the game before you buy it, could it be said that pirating a game in that circumstance is wrong? Because you're going to want to have some sort of reference point as to whether you're going to like the thing that you're going to spend money on. Games are an expensive thing. They're not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. And when you come to AAA titles, that's especially the case.
Yeah.
So, if there's no way of testing it beforehand, if all you've got to go on is information from, like, maybe review sites or what the publishers have said, is it wrong to download the game to see whether there's, you know, any mileage in you actually paying for it? You know, should you find out whether you like it before you buy it?
Well, I think, like, this... Years and years ago, you used to get demo discs with PC magazines, and people would buy that, the magazine, primarily for the demo disc. As internet lines got faster and faster and faster, you were then able to download the demos are, you know, off the internet. But then for some reason, the demos have kind of been wiped out. It's very rarely you see a game with a demo, especially a AAA game. In fact, in most cases, you don't even see a demo with any AAA game. You don't even see demos with indie games most of the time. But then again, indie games are so cheap, it kind of really doesn't matter. But there are the exceptions to this. There's games with demos and stuff like that out there. I'm not saying there's none. But is it ethically wrong to pirate a game when there is no demo available? Now, this is where it gets very interesting. If you've got a lot of self-control and you can say to yourself, I am going to download this game just to see what it's like. If I like the game, I will then delete my download and then buy the game. If you do that, now it's going to take somebody with a hell of a strong will to do that. If you're going to do that, then I'm fine with you downloading the game, provided if you like the game, you then go and buy the game, because you need to pay for what you're actually playing. However, the problem is, why would you do that? If you just wanted to play the single player campaign on Modern Warfare, Black Ops 2 or whatever the hell the latest one is, you could just download the game and play through it. You play through the first level, you think, oh yeah, I quite like this, so I'll just keep playing and playing and playing. I've completed the game, that's it, that's fine, now I've deleted it. I've not actually paid for the game. As much as I loathe Activision and their retarded Call of Duty bollocks, it's still a disgusting thing to do. It's still theft, you know, that's still robbery. So that's where it goes bad. So I think, in answer to that question, if you have got the self-control, I mean, I'm laughing as I say this because I know nobody's going to do this. If you've got the self-control, it's like almost like going into a shop, robbing a packet of crisps, eating it, half the pack, and then going to the shopkeeper, you know what, I'll buy 3 bags now, when you only wanted to eat half a pack anyway. It's just crazy. It doesn't even work. Even that, the example doesn't even work, but whatever. So that's what I think about that, Mr. Kirioth. Where are we going next?
Well, you see, you say that, but I'm gonna give you the specific example of the last thing I pirated, right? Because I've got to prove you wrong, son. That was Dragon Age Origins, and that was a quality game, and I liked it so much that I did stop playing the pirated version. I went out and bought it. I installed it. I played it through. I lost the CD key. I bought it again, and then it came up in a Steam sale, and I bought it a third time. So in that case, it did work. You know, they got 3 lots of money out of me for that for one game, which they would not have had I not pirated the game, because it was something I'd never really played before. The kind of RPG that Dragon Age is, I had no experience
But that's down to you being honest, though. This is the problem. A lot of people are not like that, though. They're scumbags. They're just going to take the piss. So that is a good example. I'll give you that. And you are a bit mad for buying it, even though when I think about it, I bought Dragon Age, and then I also bought it on a Steam sale. So I'm like, what? So I've done the same sort of thing. Yeah. So not quite as bad, but yeah. Anyway, where do we go next? Next?
The thing is, even if you download a game to test it, you know, in inverted commas, I was just having a look of, you know, even if you do think to yourself, well, I'll buy it if I like it, but end up not buying it. At the end of the day, pirating games is bad. It just is. You need to pay up. You need to respect the developer. Even if you don't respect the publisher. I don't particularly respect Activision, but the fact is, people work hard to make, well, I say work hard, people copy and paste to make the Call of Duty games. And not buying it doesn't result in Activision going under, it results in developers losing jobs. Activision doesn't care, but the developer will do if everyone suddenly doesn't buy the game. But then again, that's my opinion now, sir. As someone who, you know, earns a living via gaming, who can actually say to a company, we would like to review your game, could we have a copy? I mean, my opinion was not the same as that 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, this is a good thing. So why now do I think it's acceptable to go out and buy every game you play? Well, I've now got a job. I now earn money, Mr. Kirioth. Me and you, it's special because we earn our money off gaming. So it's like a crazy circle. We're going to ultimately get more and more games because that's what we do for a living. Now, there are people out there who will be in my situation, and probably around our age group as well. So we're looking at 25 to 35-ish. Got a decent job, got quite a bit of disposable income, can throw money on games, and that's fine. But there are people who are not in these situations, who can't just go around and buy stuff. So it's alright for us to sit there on our high horse and go, you know what? You're a scumbag because you downloaded that game, and I've bought it. You're terrible. You're a terrible person. They might not be able to afford the game, yet they've still got hold of the game and had the chance to experience the game. Is that really that bad? Because that may influence them later on, if it's a good game that they're playing, to actually buy the game, as in the case of your Dragon Age Origins example. So there are a lot of grey areas when you start talking about, is it right to pirate, is it wrong? What I will say is, in every single case, now this is going to sound totally condescending and retarded, it is wrong to pirate. You should not pirate games. But if you do pirate games, and you have sort of valid reasons that are, you know, you simply can't afford it, or you want to test the game out and you full well intend to buy the game if you do like the game, then I kind of can't really hate on you as much. Of course, the ultimate thing is I can't stop you anyway. Nobody can stop you, so it's not like what I say really matters. People have got their own free will, they're going to do whatever. But I do strongly believe you need to pay for whatever games you buy, especially indie games. Now, I think I'm going to make an exception here. I loathe people who pirate indie games because they are so cheap.
They are. A lot of them are.
I don't get that.
Near. Yeah,
a lot
of them are
also
nowhere
small
near
companies. Could be even one person. They depend on that for their livelihood. You don't rob that. That's just terrible.
They're not nowhere near the cost of a AAA title, and it's not a case of, you know, a group of people sat there and working on the sequel of the sequel of the sequel. It's like it would be 1 or 2 or maybe 5 people who sat there and thought, we've had a good idea for a game, I think we can make this, and, you know, they've poured everything into it. It's not like when the next project comes up, it'll be okay because they'll recoup their losses. It's everything to them. You know, they've put heart and soul into it in a way that I think somewhere that's been funded by a massive publisher hasn't. So there's not really any excuse, because you're still getting a game that's had a load of effort put into it, and you're getting it for ridiculously cheap compared to AAA titles. So when it comes to indie games, just don't do it. But on the other hand, when it comes to AAA games, you're right, it's bad and you shouldn't do it, but I think there's a difference between something being bad and then being able to understand why someone does something that's bad. Like, you should pay for games, you absolutely should, but I'm not going to sit here.
This is a very loose example again. It's it's wrong to murder people. Yet if somebody breaks into your house and threatens your family, you may murder them inadvertently. And that's sort of like, you can compare that to the whole pirate thing. It's
a case of understanding, I think.
Yeah, it is, but it is still wrong. It's still theft. And whichever way you look at it, you should not be pirating games. But that's my opinion now, as an almost 26-year-old male who lives on his own, who has not got a family to support, who could, if he wanted to, just go and buy all the games anyway. But he doesn't, because he's in a privileged situation where he can get games through his business. So that, I'm always going to be like that. And my income depends on the gaming industry. So I'm never going to sit here and go, oh yeah, pirate all the games, that's fine. And I'm not going to do it myself, because that's what I depend on for my income. So, but 8 years ago, when I wasn't doing this, so I mean, what was I, 18? 8 years ago, I'm almost 26, let's say. So I'm 18, maybe getting on for 19 or something. I don't care. I'm just a scrub. I'm just doing whatever. I don't care. At the time I was working with my dad, and I was just, the only games I would probably buy and pay for were multiplayer games. Anything that was single player, I probably downloaded.
Yeah.
And it's okay, but now I look back at myself, I'm disgusted. And any 18, 19-year-old I spoke to now, I'd be like, no, you're an idiot. You need to buy games, because if you don't buy them, how the hell are these companies going to get funding to produce the next game in that series or make other games? And especially for indie companies, then they're just going to collapse, because they're not going to be able to recover from it.
And there is this thing, I think, of there always seems to be an assumption amongst a lot of people who pirate games that there's no victim.
Hang on, this is very interesting. You can compare this to pollution, car pollution. So you'll see somebody driving around in a Toyota Prius or an electric car or whatever. They've decided to try and make a change which will help the environment, but everybody else drives around in a car, and they would be thinking, like a petrol diesel car or whatever. They'd be like, it doesn't matter. What difference does it make if I go green? What difference does it make if I pirate the game? It's the same thing. It's like, you perceive it as having no impact, because it's like, yeah, I'm only one person. I've only downloaded one copy of the game. I haven't hurt them, have I? No, I've done nothing.
But the fact is that when millions of people think like that, exactly. You end up with severe problems. It's a really strange thing. It's because people make light of the thing at the start of films. You wouldn't steal a car, you wouldn't steal a handbag, all that kind of thing. And people, they sit there and then they watch the film, then they go home and they download the film and watch it again and think, well, it's different. It's different because there's no victim here. No one is any worse off because I have effectively stolen this thing. That's not how it works at all. It's never been how it works. And
is this something to do with the psyche of a human being? This is getting really deep now, where digital media is replicated into infinity. This is not a physical thing. This isn't like there is a finite amount of stuff and so-and-so has had to produce this, because they've only made the master copy of the game. I know a lot of work's gone into it, and then they simply can just reproduce the game until the end of time. So is that another thing where people think, you know what, it's just data, it's just somebody's right-clicked copy and paste. There's nothing, I'm not really stealing anything.
And yet, it totally... This is the thing, though, because it really is. It's the same with any form of digital media. Games, DVDs, music, you name it. There's this thing of, it doesn't matter, it's just data. It's not important. No one's losing anything from me copying and pasting this to all my friends. But they are, and it's not even the people that... I mean, there's a big thing with... I think, was it the Pirate Party? There was some talk amongst a particular group of very vocal sort of pirates, which that always feels weird saying that. But the whole thing was, it doesn't matter. It's not important because it doesn't hurt anyone. Because the big CEO of Activision or whatever, they're not being harmed by the lack of sales. It's like, no, they're not. But the people who make the game are. When a film bombs and does terrible at the box office and earns less than it costs to make, the actors still get paid, but the guy operating the camera doesn't. The artist in the music industry, they get paid, but the person who's been sent out to do all the publicity does not, because they've failed, because the music's been pirated to hell. It's the same principle across all these formats. There is a victim, and just because it's data doesn't mean it's not tangible. You wouldn't go to someone and say, make me a website, and then refuse to pay them on the basis that it's not a physical thing. No one's, you wouldn't do that because you'd say that was stealing. So it's just really strange that there's this, almost like this complete lack of that attitude towards games, because they're really tangible things. You sink hours into games. Whether you've pirated it or whether you've bought it, if it's a game you like, you'll sit there and you'll play it for hours on end. You'll complete the single player campaign. You might sit there and find mods for it. You'll sink hours of your time into it, and that alone, I'd have thought, should be enough for people to recognise that this is a very real thing they're doing. They're not just sitting there looking into space doing nothing. This is like a crafted adventure. Someone's put this together. The story's been written, all the graphics have been designed, the engine's been built, or it's been adapted, or there's so much work goes into it that it just seems bizarre that you just say, well, it doesn't affect anyone if I steal this. And I think the reason it's bizarre is because I was in that position of thinking that. And it's like, it seems crazy to me now.
We've sort of gone through a journey, yeah. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up now, and I'm just going to give you like a conclusion wrap up almost. So it is wrong to pirate. It's very wrong. You shouldn't pirate. But if you come to me and say, I have pirated a game, and this is why I've done it, then I can kind of understand, yeah? If you're an asshole and you're like, I just fucking pirate anything anyway because I'm a dick, then you're a dick, so piss off. But you do get people like that. But I'm going to pass this over to the guys in the chat watching the video. Have you pirated games? Now, we can all get together and just admit our crimes. Yes, we have. You probably have. But what do you think about the discussion we've just had? There are a lot of interesting areas that we've covered. There are loads more areas that we could cover. It's a very complicated issue. I mean, we could have gone into detail on things like the advertising impact it has, because pirating, as hard as this is to believe, isn't always negative in terms of the advertising of certain games, because if a game is really well pirated, then more people are going to know about it, and ultimately more people will eventually buy it. And you could say, well, you couldn't stop the pirates anyway. So you can see how this gets very, very detailed and complex. So I want to know, me and Mr. Kirioth want to know what you think about this whole pirating games hotfix, because this has been quite a hard-hitting hotfix. We haven't fucked about. We've gone straight in. We're not beating around the bush. We've gone straight in and said, look, we've done it. We understand reasons why people would do it, but it is really bad and you should not do it. And I think at that, Mr. Kirioth, we'll leave it. So we'll catch you next time, people. Toodaloo.